one day I can meet Syko Stu and shake his hand and have a man-to-man with him and stuff like that. But who knows? But y'all, the people that know me, y'all know me. Y'all know I got mad love for everybody. And
hey, bro, real shit. One of them was a bitch and fucking bit me. I'm tired of everybody playing with me and shit. Think I'm always playing and shit. Call me bitch.
Was never meant to fall apart like this. The son of a UFC legend, once eager to carve out his own fame, now sits in a cold courtroom. Not as a fighter, not as a rising prospect, but as a defendant, crushed under the weight of his own emotions. Raja Jackson, who once boasted online about clout and attention, broke down before the judge, hands trembling, pleading for leniency. A lawsuit filed by Syko Stu hit him like a knockout punch he never saw coming. Cameras recorded every painful moment. His shaky hands, his breaking voice, his confession. Raja admitted what many thought impossible. His reckless stunt inside a small wrestling ring left another man permanently injured. The arrogance that once defined him disappeared instantly, replaced by a broken young man scrambling to save whatever was left of his reputation. But the court wasn't swayed by his breakdown. This wasn't about tears, it was about accountability. Syko Stu, a wrestler and military veteran, stood firm. He made it clear that his lawsuit wasn't driven by revenge or attention, but by justice. His life had been permanently altered, and he refused to let Raja's emotional outburst distort the truth. Hovering over all of this was the shadow of Rampage Jackson himself. The UFC icon and Raja's father, who once mocked his son publicly on live streams, now saw his legacy threatened by his own bloodline. Raja's emotional collapse may bring him sympathy online. But will it ever bring true forgiveness? Or is this courtroom breakdown the end of the Jackson name? Raja Jackson was born into a family name that symbolized power. But for him, it felt more like a curse. His father, Quinton Rampage Jackson, was a UFC star celebrated for brutal slams and a larger-than-life persona. For Raja, though, living under that shadow was suffocating. Every effort he made was compared to his father's dominance. Every mistake magnified under the crushing weight of expectation.
he went to a pro wrestling event with his coach. Those pro wrestlers, they be just as crazy as MMA guys, right? The pro wrestling guy don't know my son, and he hit him over the head with like a can or beer can or a bottle or something.
Dog gotta go to prison. I usually don't like to involve myself in other men's situations, but I feel I'm qualified to speak on this. And dog messed up. And if it's Rampage, I love Rampage. But Rampage, turn your son in.
When we're in the ring and I'm breaking it up and he shoots a fucking double leg on me, by the way, work a better fucking double leg, you fucking prick. And then I'm telling you to fucking calm down. I'm not even fucking fighting. I'm not even being fucking hostile. Then you're trying to fucking work and get lower, do this, change positions, and I'm over here having to swim with you, all this other shit. And then you fucking punch me in the fucking eye. After we're breaking it up, you
And Raja's confident smiles. His insecurities were eating him alive. What the audience thought was entertainment on streams was actually a young man desperate for approval. Not battling opponents, but wrestling with the voices telling him he would never measure up. And now, sitting in a courtroom with tears rolling down his face, Raja finally admitted the truth. His entire life had been about proving he wasn't weak. His apology wasn't only for one violent outburst, but for years of pent-up rage, humiliation, and shame that erupted in a single night of chaos. Yet to Syko Stu, those words carried no weight. The court replayed the night's footage again and again like a haunting nightmare. The Knox Pro Wrestling Academy, a place meant for performance and skill building, had turned into a disaster zone. It all began as a harmless joke when Stu tapped Raja with a prop beer can, a common gag in wrestling culture. But to Raja, it sparked a fire. On his live stream, he swore it wasn't scripted and promised to retaliate, insisting he would prove once and for all that he wasn't soft. Viewers mocked him, egging him on. And instead of fatherly guidance, Rampage Jackson, streaming separately, fueled the flames with taunts. Then came the shocking moment. Raja stormed into the ring mid-match, hoisted Stu up, and slammed him with a level of force that belonged in an MMA cage, not a wrestling school. He didn't stop. He delivered strike after strike, 20, maybe 30, until Stu lay bloodied, motionless, and broken on the mat, his mother's screams echoing through the arena. In court, as those clips played for the jury, Raja collapsed in sobs, confessing he had lost control, that years of trolling and public humiliation had pushed him over the edge. But Stu's lawyer cut through the tears with one harsh statement. This wasn't an accident. It was planned. When Syko Stu finally took the stand, Silence gripped the room. Once respected in the indie wrestling circuit for his toughness and grit, he now sat permanently disabled, forced to fight daily just to move with dignity. His testimony wasn't theatrical. It was raw, painful, and unforgettable. He described the betrayal of trust in the ring, the horror of his mother watching helplessly as he bled out, and the humiliation of being knocked unconscious while the show carried on, as if his life meant nothing. His voice cracked, but his words pierced deep. Raja hadn't just attacked him, he had stolen his future. Raja broke down again, trembling, whispering apologies, insisting he never intended to destroy Stu's life, claiming his actions were driven by pride and rage rather than hatred. But Stu remained unmoved. His cold stare made it clear this case was never about revenge, but about accountability. He had lost his career, his health, and his peace of mind, and no apology could restore any of that. Mercy, he said, was a luxury he could not afford. When his testimony reached the wrestling community, the backlash was immediate. Veterans condemned Raja's actions, calling them a disgrace and a betrayal of everything wrestling stood for. They blasted Knox Pro Wrestling for allowing the show to continue, even pinning an unconscious man in front of a crowd while blood stained the ring. This wasn't wrestling. Critics said it was exploitation.
Dumb animal, put him in a cage, straight up. Not a human, not allowed in society. Control yourself, bitch. Bring that sparring partner back, tornado kick him again.
The best part about that is like he needs his rest and his space, and his family needs their rest and their space, and I don't want to be an extra person pushing in on time.
Backlash from the MMA world was just as ruthless as the courtroom drama itself. Fighters openly branded Raja a disgrace, insisting his violent breakdown proved he never belonged in combat sports at all. Big names like Kevin Lee and Sean Strickland threw their weight behind Syko Stu's lawsuit, demanding the industry finally separate staged entertainment from outright criminal assault. Fans flooded social media, with hashtags like Soul Justice for Stu catching fire across platforms, transforming Stu from an indie wrestler into a powerful symbol for accountability in a business notorious for blurring reality and performance. Yet inside the courtroom, Raja was breaking down again and again, insisting he never wanted hatred, only a chance to prove himself. But to the public, those tears looked more like desperation than redemption, and forgiveness wasn't coming. All the while, the shadow of Rampage Jackson hung over everything, as fans dug up old clips of the UFC legend mocking his son, choking him during live streams, ridiculing his weight, and joking about bail money instead of education. What was once brushed off as tough love now looked cruel, and many began to argue that years of public humiliation may have fueled the rage that exploded that night. Raja, sobbing, admitted it himself, that behind every fight, every stream, every angry outburst, all he had ever wanted was his father's respect. He confessed that his desperation to prove he wasn't weak grew from years of ridicule. And his tears weren't only for Stu, but for a lifetime of humiliation that had festered like poison. The jury shifted uneasily as these admissions painted a darker picture. Not just one violent night, but a man molded by neglect and ridicule, crushed under the weight of expectations. Still, sympathy could only stretch so far, because no matter how tragic Raja's upbringing was, his choices left another man permanently disabled. No personal pain could erase the consequences of that night. Stu's lawyers laid out the case piece by piece, replaying Raja's own livestream threats, his chilling vows that this time the violence would be real, and they backed it up with medical reports proving Stu's permanent injuries. Every exhibit hammered home the truth. This wasn't an accident. It was deliberate, and the damages were staggering. Endless surgeries, years of rehab, the end of a career, lost income, and emotional scars that would never fade. The jury wasn't looking at a wrestling stunt gone wrong. They were staring at the ruin of a man's life and the staggering price of Raja's rage. Stu's team demanded punitive damages, punishment designed to hit Raja where it hurt most. And as the numbers rang out in the courtroom, Raja broke down completely, sobbing that prison had already stolen his freedom, and this lawsuit would now strip away whatever future he had left. He begged Stu not to destroy him further, insisting he had learned his lesson, but Stu remained firm. He told the court this was never about revenge or money, it was about justice. No cash could restore his health or bring back the life that was taken. Raja's pleas stirred some pity, but they couldn't erase the truth. Someone had to pay for a lifetime of pain.